I literally feel so dumb for crying right now. Like, it's really not that serious. But I just feel alone. And like, why am I crying? It's just hard being so far away from home and you don't have anybody here, or like they're not your people, and like I'm just really having a hard time finding like my people. Why am I crying, yo? That's so annoying. It's not that big a deal because I know things are gonna come. I know my people are gonna come. I'm gonna find out like why I'm here. But like right now, like going through it, I hate it here. Like I really just want to go home. I just want to go home, and I can't. And like I don't want to tell my mom and my dad because then like like they don't want me to be uncomfortable here. But like I hate it so much. I hate it. And I feel so dumb for crying because it's not that big of a deal. I just have to give it more time. But like in every situation that I'm in, I just feel so uncomfortable, and like I'm trying to conform and be something that I'm not. Like I don't like those scenes. I don't know why I go to them. It's like I feel pressured, but at the same time, it's like you gotta put yourself out there in order for things to come. But like, bottom line is I hate it.
If it's God that I'm after, we just can't serve two masters. And before something happens, I gotta turn it all around because I know I can't just have my cake and eat it too. Cause it's real easy to stay on the fence and still do you. And it'd be cool if we could love the Lord and still go do our thing. I never want my story or like what I put out or what I produce to be taken as a different intent than what it's meant for. Because nothing that I do or I'm like plan to do is done with like malicious intent of like, oh, I'm doing this so everybody can see, of like I done came from this or whatever. Like,
no, you don't gotta worry about that. If we got God, He gonna picture it for them in a way where they see it. It's godly. It's a godly thing.
Yeah.
And for you to do it maliciously, that's on them. If they think that way, that means they don't got their spirit right. But this is you pouring your heart out to them.
Yeah.
Or to anybody. To yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's also too like what I produce or what I intend to produce, a lot of it is for me to look back on and be like, man, like I done came from this to that. Oh, I really need you to help me get it. Yeah. Change the way I walk, change the way I talk, help me. Hey, 'cause if I wanna win so
I feel like I always imagine like making another like updated version because I haven't made a journal entry in like a while. I feel like throughout my college experience, definitely my first year, I was like frequently like talking to myself, or just having little check-ins, little realization points, little highlights. And I haven't really sat down in a little minute and like actually did a debriefing, and I think it's very important for me moving into this next stage of life to do so. I'm a second semester senior right now, and I'm about to graduate. Like there is not going to be any more undergrad die or anything like that. Like I'm moving into the real world, and I think within that has caused me to be a lot more reflective over my journey throughout college, just about the person I was, the person I am, and the person that I want to be, in order to ensure that I can be the best version of myself. And I've really been doing a lot of reflecting lately, and I've come across a few realizations that I kind of just want to talk about. I think throughout, like starting, I think throughout my college experience, I came into college where it was a completely different environment that I was from than what I was exposed to. And um, prior to college, all I knew was like church. Like my grandmother was my pastor pretty much throughout my entire lifetime. Um, I was always at Sunday school, Sunday service when we would have, community feedings here and there. I might be there. I was on the praise dance ministry, youth choir, the praise dance slash mime, and like that was all I knew. Like there was no diamond at a party, diamond out late at night. Like I knew nothing about that. So you can imagine, going from that and then coming into college, I'm around so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and I'm just exposed to so much. And I think at some point I got lost in that. And if I can stand correct, I feel like at the beginning of this video, it was a journal entry that I made back in my freshman year where I talked about um, just feeling lost, like feeling like I had to be something that I wasn't in order to, you know, identify or feel like I would be accepted or I could make friends and just stuff like that. And I feel like at some points I did fall victim to peer pressure and I let that get the best of me. But then also I think it was me trying to just figure out who I was at that point in time. Like I'm around so much and essentially I'm by myself here. Like there's no parents here, there's no family here, there's nobody to, hold my hand and say, this is exactly what you need to do, this is exactly the decisions you need to make, this is the person you need to become. Like it was really just free ground for me to try to figure that out by myself. But in that, I feel like I got comfortable with certain environments as well. Like I got definitely the comfortability of just me just kind of living my life on YOLO. And anybody that knows me knows that that kind of was like my slogan for the longest. You only live once, so like do it the biggest, like who cares, like whatever. But then it really started hitting me like this year, like no, you do only live once, so you need to make the most out of this life while you have it, while you have the chance. And now that's kind of just where the place I'm at. Like I have a choice to make, and where do I want to end up? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Choices that I make now, how is that going to impact my future? Like I'm just thinking very like futuristically now, which is something that I haven't been doing these past 3 years while I'm at college. And then I think I reached a point where I felt like I was so far gone, like from the person who was entering into dentistry. Like I had lost myself along the way of, trying to fit in with these crowds or be accepted by people or, really just coming to who Diamond was for that point of time, that I lost myself. And I felt like I was so far away that I couldn't get grasp of like anything. Like as I'm just trying to, it's getting further and further away. And so it was hard for me to come back to. And I feel like now that I'm in a place of reflection, I feel like I was operating a lot of my life in lukewarmness of, wanting one foot in, wanting one foot out, and kind of making that choice was hard for myself. I feel like it's led me to make decisions that I look back where I'm just like, wow, that was one for the books or that was an experience. But I'm grateful I endured all that because it made me the person that I am today. And I think without that, um, I think that part of my life would have been missing in a sense of the lessons that I've learned from it. I'm very glad that I learned some of those lessons earlier than I did, say come I'm in my 30s or my 40s having to go through that. And there's a part of me that doesn't have to seek to fill those voids that were filled prior to or earlier within my life. That now I got, a little taste of that experience. And so that's out my system. I understand, okay, this is something that I do want. This is something that I don't want. And I don't have to repeat those steps. Like I have the ability to change my outlook and change what comes next and what happens next in my story. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much like where I've been in that sense mentally. But even in my sophomore year, I went to London, and for the longest, my London experience was a very touchy topic. To most people, if they ask me, "Oh, how was London?" I would say that I hated it. And I think even maturing now, being that it was 2 years later, I won't say that I hated it entirely. I think I hated the person that it turned me into, or the mindset that I was in um, while I was there. I think it prepared me, and I was exactly where I needed to be at that moment. But there were a lot of cons that had came with that experience that I feel like have affected my outlook on life. Um, while I was there, I was pretty much in complete solitude. Like, I didn't go there with any friends, family. Like, I'm completely in a different continent, another country, by myself to live life for. I think I was there for like 3 months. And while I was there, my grandmother ended up getting sick. And I remember I kept blaming myself and feeling like I should have been home. And me being home, there was nothing I could really do, even if I would have been home. But I just kept feeling like I should have been there. And I think even throughout my sophomore year, it was just a very transformational year for me. I think I endured a lot. And I was just really lost trying to figure out who I was and what I would be like. And so I think part of that, me hating my experiences there, was I felt like life was existing and going on without me. And everything was happening and just continued to evolve. But I felt so like stationary. Um, and I remember before going abroad, uh, I'm really bad at like checking in on people and calling people, texting people, reaching out to them. And all my grandmother wanted was for me to do that more. And I was in a place where I didn't understand the significance of that. Um, and like right before I had got or went to London, we had a little bit of a, whatever disagreement about that. And we finally ended up like, moving on from it, like literally right before I left. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think that even now, I don't hold as much guilt over myself, but I feel like that was a point that made me take grief a lot harder, because I felt like, dang, like all she wanted was my time, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice that. Or she just wanted conversation. I wasn't willing to, nudge a little bit on that, or sacrifice, or just put a little bit of more time and effort into that relationship, and to show people that I cared and that I loved her. Um, and so I ended up, when she ended up getting sick, I ended up being able to leave London like a week or two earlier before I was supposed to. And when I came back, she ended up passing away 2 days later. But I'm forever grateful for me being able to arrive prior to her passing, but also when I arrived, for her to look at me and to recognize that I was there. Because the end of life, you start hallucinating, you start going in and out, and things just aren't the same. And so for that split second, for her to look at me and understand, like, oh, like you came, like what are you doing here? That's something that I will forever, cherish and hold close to my heart. But I remember after her passing, one of the first conversations that I had kind of with myself was that I hope that this doesn't affect my relationship with God. Because, like I said, my grandmother was my pastor pretty much for my entire life, from what I can remember. And so I never wanted, I never wanted her passing to affect the way that I viewed life, or like affect the relationship in my religion, you know what I mean? And like what I believe in my faith. Um, and so I remember after I got back to school, life was just life, and like it was just one thing after another. Like literally felt like I could not get a break. And so even through all of that and dealing with what I was dealing with, it was a thing of like, let me just try. Like, I made this promise. I said that I don't want it to affect my relationship with God, so let me not let it. So I was going to church and, just trying to be in my word and stuff. And I was doing that for a little bit, but just being human, like life's still continuing to happen. And so I started thinking from a mindset, well, it doesn't even make sense for me to go anymore if you still gonna let all this happen. If bad is still coming my way and you not letting me get a break, then like what's the point? Like, you already took my grandmother, Like I wasn't here for a lot of those experiences and just helping out, and then you allowing everything, at college to happen. Then like, what's the point? Like, what am I even believing in if you're so willing to make me suffer? Like, I really think I was so stuck in that mindset that like I was angry at God. I was angry at him for allowing everything to happen. And it wasn't actually until recently that I was able to even admit that out loud, because I felt like I was ashamed to even say those words, because I never like admitting that you're angry at God. Like, who do I think I am? But at the same time, with me just having that relationship, I didn't feel like I had a relationship for me to even tell him that. I think it was so straight, and I felt like I was so far and that there was no way for me to come back, that like, oh, I definitely can't express that I'm angry. Like, I'm not about to do that, so let me just not talk to him at all. And that was kind of like my downfall of that entire situation, of just like, I'm grieving and I don't know how to handle it, but I'm also going and experiencing the challenges of life, and life is still going on, and all these things are still allowed to happen. And I think now it's kind of led me to a place of just reflection, and definitely with the people I've interacted with. And honestly, just seeing how God has worked in like my like sisters, like my line sisters, like lives, and seeing that, oh, like God really is real, or he is capable. And then I definitely think like conversations that I've had with like my boyfriend, big kudos to him, because I feel like he has allowed me to see God in a different light. And even just having those hard conversations with me that allowed me to express my anger and my frustration, and not coming from a place of judgment, but like really wanting me to repair my relationship and get back on track, and to not stay stationary, because I was such at a place where I was so comfortable just sticking it out and just enduring, like, this is just what my relationship is going to be like, this is how it is. Like, I was okay with that. But him really like challenging my thoughts and not letting me stay there, like, I'm very appreciative of that. And even growing in my like comfortability to talk about it, like, God was a very like touchy subject for me for quite some time. Like, I didn't really want to think too deep into it, and not in a sense of like denouncing, like, oh, I don't believe in this, but just a thing of like, I don't know how to facilitate this conversation to express how I really feel, because I feel ashamed for how I feel, but I can't help but to feel how I feel due to my circumstance. And I think I fell to that. Like, that was just where I was stuck at, and I didn't know how to get out of that mindset. And even in someone had asked me, like, when I was looking at like life update questions and stuff for trying to figure out kind of the direction that I wanted to go with this video, um like, at what point do I think that I'll feel complete in life, and do I think that is subject to like a moment or goal or whatever. And most recently, I feel like it's me turning over that new leaf of me growing my relationship. Like, I've cut out a lot of stuff that I used to entertain or just engage in. And I feel like I've definitely had like clarity of like where I'm supposed to be. And I think one of the best compliments I've gotten so far is that you're just so different. And people not saying it in a way of it's a bad thing of like, oh, you changed, but like just seeing like the glow is different, the light, the energy that I carry, people being around me, like my energy radiates differently because of the circumstances and what I've yielded to, um, and like getting outside of myself. Because I think it also reached a point of how long am I willing to just say, okay, this is my situation and it is what it is. Like, me taking authority and having agency over, no, I can create it. Of me to stop pitying myself and excusing the relationship that I had, but like, let's actually work on it. Let's actually do something to change it. Because I think I was just, like I said, I was just so stuck in like, this is just what it's going to be and forever it's going to be like that. But also knowing that that wasn't the future that I envisioned for myself. Like, I envision, having that family where we go to church and we go this, but like my relationship with God was at such a stray that it felt like honestly, it felt like it was impossible. Like I was never going to achieve that because of my own personal feelings and what I wasn't willing to overcome myself. But to answer that question, like I think me being complete in life, I will say, is me just had like being in full like surrenderance of like, God, like this is your will or your plan for my life and not mine. Because I feel like as people, we can, we can sit here and we can have, I want to achieve this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but if it's not according to God, I really don't want it. Like, and being at peace with that, because it's way easier said than done. And don't get me wrong, I'm by far from perfect or have all the answers to everything, but like being at a place where like, God, if this is not something you want for my life, I am okay with that, like completely. Like it is completely yes to your will and your plan. Like whatever you see fit is what I want and what I desire. And I just feel like me being complete in life is my inclusion of God basically in whatever I do, and not being ashamed of that, because I felt for so long that I had to be ashamed. Like I didn't want to be, like the preacher's kid, or I didn't want to be overly whatever, but like I'm hiding who I really am. Like this is not a facade, this is not an act, this is not something that is just temporary. It's always been in me, but now it's me deciding to walk in that and walk in that fully. And I don't think me, like I for so long I was putting it on the back burner, and again going back to that lukewarmness, like I'm not willing to sacrifice or obey, or because I don't want to be seen as the outcast. But God designed me to be the outcast. Like he literally left the 99 for one. Like it was always going to be God making me different, making me stand out. And so for me to not walk in that, to walk in my alignment, my purpose, like I'm basically throwing away everything that he says. And like it's just reached a point where it's like I'm about to enter into a new chapter, and I'm entering into another stage of life, and I don't want to repeat the same things that I've endured during this stage. I don't want anything that will backtrack me or send me or having me relive these experiences that I've already endured. Like that is just not something I want for my life. And it's come to a point where me to have, hard conversations with myself, because it's been like that for so long. I mean, you think about it, I'm a senior now. So like for the past 3 years, I've just been that became my everyday lifestyle of just like, it is what it is. Like it's never gonna get better. But for me to actually take control and say like, no, I have the ability to change this, to be better, to want better for myself, I think has been my biggest highlight of my senior year. And then someone had asked me about like, again, just like 5-year goals, long-term goals. There's probably a whole list that I can come up with, but really it's subject to at the end with a little asterisk, like whatever God wants for me. And then someone also asked about my favorite Bible verse, and I feel like it is kind of a connecting point, because my favorite Bible verse has pretty much always been Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. And so just knowing that like God already had a plan for me when he created me, and that whatever his plan is going to come into fruition. Like I don't have to worry about a thing. It's literally in his hands. So even as I'm applying to jobs now and going through rejection letters and stuff like that, like I honestly haven't been affected by it as bad as I feel like I would have been a year ago, because it's okay. God, that's not what God has fit for me. Like God hasn't left me this far, and he doesn't plan to now. And so whatever he has fit is going to be, and it's going to come into fruition, and I'm okay with that. And then someone asked me like about creating my YouTube channel, and I just felt like, why? Essentially, like, why now? Like, why am I coming back? Because I've had my channel pretty much since I've been in middle school, high school, but I just been really inconsistent. And this is not to say that I'm about to start posting every single week. Is that the ultimate goal? probably, but like I'm also giving myself grace and allowing myself to grow, but also recognizing that this is how I document. Like me just talking to myself, this is my journal. Like I'm not really a sit down and write type of person, but like I can talk to myself and really just talk about my experiences. And this is just what, like, this is my personal diary. Is for me to look back on and to just see my progress and to see my growth, especially as I'm entering into this next era of life, stage of life. Just to see, so I can look back and like just remember also where I came from. um and then someone asked me about, like, just where am I now, and I feel like I've kind of talked about that throughout this, is that like I'm just much like happier. I feel lighter, in a sense of like I don't feel like my past is like burdening me, or that I'm having to live in regret. Like I feel like I'm kind of just leaving things up to what they will be, and like having total faith in that like it will work out exactly how it's supposed to work out. And I'm choosing that, and I'm making decisions that are for my good, and that I'm actually working on my relationship with Christ. And again, I just want to restate that I'm not saying that I'm perfect. And I think to some, it's probably going to be like, oh, all of a sudden you done got da 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 da. It's not that I got, more godly or whatever talking about it. I stopped having feelings that I had to hide it. That's really what it is. It's always been there. This is nothing new. This is not me just all of a sudden I'm finding God and now I'm doing the whole thing. Like, no, it's always been there, but it's just been me walking in it proudly, of not feeling like I have to hide it. And I feel like it relates to this sermon that I was watching at 2819 Church, which y'all should definitely go check out. But um Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, he was just talking about like your words in your life has to match. Like there's no way that I can be claiming that I'm a Christian and that I'm out here like posting Bible verses or whatever, but then my life doesn't match that. And for so long I was operating in that because I was unsure, or I felt like I had to hide, and I felt like I just had to hide who I was. And I'm tired of having to operate in that. I feel like, I know I'm not perfect, and I don't ever want to claim to be perfect, because I know that that is an unattainable goal. But like, it's me just choosing to say yes every day, and not yes, oh, I think that this is okay, or like a sure, but like a complete yes of whatever you see fit for my life is okay, and that's exactly what I want, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Like there's no rebuttal, there's no debate about it. Like I'm saying yes to you, I'm saying yes to your will, and that's all I can really ask for. But yeah, like this is pretty much my life update. That we have is what, 2 months until graduation, so we're getting very close. But yeah, this is just a little message to myself to keep pushing and to make the choice, because it really is up to you, to decide that what you want and the person that you become and who you want to be and where you want to end up, and all of those things. But it's in your hands, it's in your control. I'm proud of you for reaching this far. um, you've put in hard work, you did unimaginable things, and it's only going to go up from here, and I can't wait to see all that you will achieve. Bye.